2024 NFL offseason, debating best and worst free agency signings, underrated draft picks, more. They have three of their experts, Cody Benjamin, who we use his material quite a bit on the show, Jordan Dajani, and then Shauna McCarriston. So three of their experts. And the best free agent signing, two of these three say that Danielle Hunter is the best free agency signing. I'll use Cody Benjamin's blurb on it here. It's hard not to like the Texans' splashy investment off the edge, where Danielle Hunter gives them one of the NFL's most imposing edge rushers to pair with Will Anderson and play under Miko Ryans. Is he expensive? Sure. But as a short-term ad for a sudden contender, you can't do much better. Do you think he's expensive? I don't think he's expensive for what he does.
I think I think this is where the Texans are kind of ahead of the curve compared to a lot of other teams, is that they are following aggressively the trend of, okay, shorter contracts with more guaranteed money, because that's the best for both sides. Players forever have been clamoring for guaranteed contracts. Teams have said, look, it's football. You jamokes get injured and you start sucking earlier in your career than in other sports, so we can't do these. So what do? Yeah, you meet in the middle. You do a short-term contract that's almost fully guaranteed for a really, really good player who then is incentivized in the very, very short term to get another contract. And it's the best for everybody involved. So I think you look at it as, yeah, it's a short-term splashy investment, as he calls it. It's a splashy investment, and it's splish splash. We're taking a bath in greatness, Sean.
That's right.
We're bathing ourselves in glory with this.
Yes.
It is a splashy investment.
It is. It is. Well, it's as far as profile and resume, back of the football card, if you will.
Ooh,
it's easily the splashiest thing that Nick Caserio's done in free agency, and it's not even close.
My Danielle Hunter NFTs have skyrocketed in value.
Well,
where can I sell these NFTs that I bought when I'm in a deep depression in 2020? What is this?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to sell you. You want to buy this NFT? Yeah, I get to own it? Yeah. What do I get to own? Nothing, really.
Yeah.
Anybody can still do whatever they want with the image. Yeah. You don't even get royalties off of it.
I feel a little vindicated, like during that time in 2020 when crypto and NFTs were like all the rage, and I didn't touch any of it. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what this is exactly. Like, I don't know what this is. So
I know enough to know that. I know enough to know that the crypto, even whether you love it or hate it, if you're distrustful of it or what have you, the people that really, really know what they're doing just love that it's volatile.
Yeah.
And that if you're, I wish I were that sophisticated and disciplined to just be somebody that preys on the volatility of something, but I'm not that guy.
I am not either.
I would have lost all my money 7 times over if I tried to be an active crypto trader by now. You guys can tell me all you want about how, like I should have bought crypto when it was $1 and all that. Yeah, I get it. 100%. There was a crypto ATM right there by the Smoothie King. There's a Bitcoin ATM by the Smoothie King like 5 years ago, and I used to go out of it every day and be like, I should just buy $1.
Give it a go.
I should buy one Bitcoin, right? Well, what's the big deal? I don't regret it a bit because I've got a long history of various other things that were just as promising that went down in flames.
Yep.
So believe you me, if I had bought like $10,000 worth of crypto in 2020, Sean, that money would have already been invested elsewhere in something that failed.
Yes.
I am straight vanilla with my investments, baby, and I am proud of it.
Man,
yes.
Same. Absolutely. So, two of the three like the Hunter signing the best. I think the interesting contrast here is the one that Jordan Dajani has as his best signing. He says Antonio Pierce and the Raiders added one of the best defensive tackles in the league in Christian Wilkins. He's someone who can rush the passer from the inside, which will make life easier for Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson, former favorite of the Payne and Pendergast show. I like Christian Wilkins as a player. I wanted Christian Wilkins for the Texans. As soon as I saw the price tag for Christian Wilkins on hour 2 of free agency, the splurge day, I said, I don't like Christian Wilkins that much. It was like 4 years, $28 to $30 million a year for a guy. And this is what I'll point out as the contrast between Wilkins and Hunter. Not just the price tag, which was very reasonable for Hunter and very exorbitant for Wilkins. Wilkins had a great contract year. Danielle Hunter has had a great career.
Right,
You know, it's just more to go off of.
This is not the Von Miller contract where the Bills gave Von Miller a contract that at the time people thought, look, makes a lot of sense. They're a team that's on the brink. You're overpaying, sure, but here you go. And then what happens with Von Miller? A, the normal aging that you expect, and B, he also ended up getting himself into some off-field scenarios as well. So it ended up being a bad contract, or probably a bad. In hindsight, it's easy to say this. If they could figure out a way to beat the Chiefs, then maybe it would be different. But this makes a lot of sense. Short-term splurge, and as much as we feel like, oh, you got to get a presence at defensive tackle, having two bookend defensive ends is a bigger headache than having a tackle and an end, because whichever way you slide the protection now, you've still got a headache on the other side. Yeah. If you've got a Laramie Tunsil on the left side, you can slide your protection and leave Laramie Tunsil alone with a really good defensive end. Most teams don't have a Laramie Tunsil. So when you have Danielle Hunter on one side and Will Anderson on the other, it is absolute nightmare, depending on what your composition is. So I think pivoting off of that Eric Armstead trade, because they had the opportunity for Danielle Hunter, I still feel good about that. I know they ended up paying the price and basically having to give away one of your starting defensive tackles for just about nothing. But it makes sense from a team-building perspective.
I'd rather have lunch pail defensive tackles and star defensive ends than the other way around.
Yes. 100%.
Right,
yeah.
right. It's just they're more impactful. It's why they get paid as much as they do.
And even defensive tackles, which now, because people understand how much interior pass rush really can disrupt, like a guy like Tom Brady at his peak. It was that pressure up the middle that really disrupts all quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Those guys are a lot more ineffective if they don't have good defensive ends out there. So, yeah, the edge rushers really drive the engine.
All right, best trade. So we already know the two of the three on CBSSports.com, like the Danielle Hunter signing. One, Cody Benjamin. Man, he really loves the Texans. Which trade will pay off the most? Mm-hmm. Which trade will pay off the most? Cody Benjamin says this: the Chicago Bears adding Keenan Allen is a smart way to help ease Caleb Williams into the NFL, but the Texans pick swap for Stephon Diggs. Let me pause right there. Good for you, Cody Benjamin, for recognizing what exactly the sequence of trades was there. There's so many experts like, I can't believe they gave up a second-round pick for 1 year of Stephon Diggs. It's like, no, it's how they got that second-round pick. Says the pick swap for Stephon Diggs should pay more immediate and substantial dividends for their own young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Even if it's only a 1 year rental, the potential for fireworks is wild. That's exactly where I'm at with this. I have come to grips quickly with the idea that this is going to be a 1 year fling with Stephon Diggs, and I am cool with it.
You've pointed this out multiple times, but for some reason it wasn't until this moment that I realized the irony of the pick swap being basically you traded the Vikings for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
It just didn't quite register before that. Yeah, he's been traded by the Vikings twice now.
Kind of.
I wonder if does that put the Vikings into like renewed grudge mode for Stephon Diggs?
Well, they're on the schedule, too. I forgot. We're also caught up in the Bills being on the schedule because it's recency. But, the Vikings are on the schedule, too, for Stephon Diggs. This is your life for Stephon Diggs.
That one might sting more. He might have more of a chip on his shoulder about the Vikings, because the Vikings feel like they really got one over on that because they went and drafted Jefferson and, got a younger guy for cheaper and obviously an awesome receiver. So, yeah, I bet he got and continues to get more hate that might actually hurt from the Vikings fan base than from the Bills fan base.
Yeah. We just haven't had time for the Bills to really hate him as much as the Vikings have had. I mean, they've had 5 years.
Yeah, Bills fans are kind of reeling from a bunch of different stuff that's happened there as they come to terms with, okay, this looks like a reset year.
Yeah.
Whereas the Vikings fan base is probably gloated a lot more about the trade.
And as well, they probably should. Like you said, that the exact pick they got for Diggs turns into Justin Jefferson.
They've got that Diggs trade has ruined other franchises.
Yes.
That Diggs trade ultimately cost Vrabel his job.
Yes.
Because because other teams started thinking like, oh, we'll just trade away our awesome wide receivers and draft a Treylon Burks. Yeah.
They tried to do the exact same thing in Tennessee. Man, you're right. It definitely cost the GM his job. Like literally that trade was the reason John Robinson got fired. And you're right.
Inspired John Robinson to just try to pull off another Diggs trade.
Yeah. So the trade that would pay off the most, Cody Benjamin says the Diggs trade. Now, the Texans do show up in the which trade will pay off the least category as well.
Is it this Benjamin turncoat?
It's not.
Is he the Judas?
He didn't turn on you. No, nor did Jordan Dejani. It's actually Shauna McCarriston, who loved the Danielle Hunter signing. She does not like the Joe Mixon trade. She said, I believe the Texans will be legitimate contenders this season, but the addition of running back Joe Mixon will not make as big of a difference as they want it to. His cost will not equal his production next season. And I can only imagine she's talking about the contract extension that the Texans willingly gave Mixon, not the seventh-round pick they forfeited to get him into the building.
Yeah, I would have to give her the benefit of the doubt on that one because I don't think there's a person on earth that's like a seventh-rounder for Joe Mixon.
Right.
This is where I'll DM her and explain to her my running back third contract theorem.
You need to, yep.
Which is that I trust any running back who has lived through his second contract. I trust him more on a third contract than I trust any other running back on their second contract.
Right.
Because I feel like there's two classes of running backs these days. There's the guys that are old school and that can play through injury and that don't get degenerative conditions in their knees after 3 good seasons. And those are the guys like Derrick Henry, lived through his second contract. Joe Mixon lived through his second contract. I feel better about those guys. Yeah, sure, age will render them a little less effective, but I feel like there's a better chance that you're going to get a good chunk of productivity out of a third running back contract than any average awesome second contract.
Yeah, look around at their offense. Like Joe Mixon is here to take the running game from being fairly abysmal. No disrespect to Devin Singletary, but that's not optimal that they were leaning on him.
Yeah, he was not going to be a bell cow. He was not going to be a 20 carry guy for the entire season.
Right. So Mixon's role is to get this thing to where it's not that anymore. It's to where it's a nice sidecar that you can use when you need to use it. But look around at what they're doing. I mean, they're trading for Stephon Diggs. They're re-signing Dalton Schultz. They've got Tank Dell and Nico Collins already, and they've got C.J. Stroud. They just need a compliment to C.J.
And I think a lot of it, too, if you look at Mixon and some of the box score stats or even some of the advanced stats don't look as good for Mixon last year. You got to look at what they were doing in the offense last year where they moved completely away from what Joe Mixon is good at. Joe Mixon is really good with QB under center, run game that complements the play action, all that stuff. The Bengals last year started to go to a extremely shotgun heavy offense where Joe Burrow is just going to sit back and pick people apart apparently. And whereas the Texans are going to have CJ under center a lot. They're still going to do a lot of play action. I think they're going to run more 3 wide receiver shotgun sets than they did last year just because of the talent they have at wide receiver. But the actual, the Kubiak-Shanahan system with Joe Mixon is just a much better fit than the Bengals were last year.
Yep. All right, headlines coming up.